Hello! I'm sure you already know how exercise lowers blood sugars, but it doesn't lower it the way that you think it does. So before we get to that, my name is Dr. Patrick. I'm a diabetes coach. I have my doctorate in physical therapy, and I had prediabetes back in 2021. And after practicing some lifestyle habits, I was able to put it into remission in 2022. And the biggest reason why I chose to specialize in working with people with diabetes was actually because my grandpa, he unfortunately passed away from the complications of type 2 diabetes. He developed kidney failure and it led to his passing. And this moment sticks with me because it just reminds me of how many fun opportunities my grandfather missed out on, especially looking at this picture. This is one of the moments that stuck with me where you could see me in the blue circle over there when I was a kid, and then my grandpa on the right with the white circle. This was his birthday, and all of us showed up to celebrate his birthday. However, inside, my grandpa was probably thinking of how he wasn't able to eat his favorite strawberry cream cake located in the center, but everyone else was able to eat it because he's fearful that once he ate it, it was just going to cause a catastrophic event on his blood sugars, leading to him going to the hospital, and he didn't want that. So instead, he just watched everyone else eat the food that he loved, and that's an experience I do not want for anyone else. Instead, I want them to feel empowered, knowing that they can have the foods that they want as long as they practice doing a balanced, science-based approach to help improve their blood sugars and eventually putting their type 2 diabetes and prediabetes into remission. So, as we get started, why is exercise important for managing diabetes? We could use science to our advantage. So by using the muscles in our body, we're able to soak up the blood sugars, and I'll get into the sequence in a little bit. It's able to help improve our heart health, reducing the risk of stroke because we're able to make our arteries, our blood vessels a lot stronger and a lot more cleaner, and resulting in reduced risk of heart disease and strokes. It also helps strengthen up our muscles and our balance to reduce their fall risk, improving the strength and stability of our muscles and the health of it to then prevent a risk of amputations and other things, complications occurring. Also reducing pain because when the muscles are there to become a lot stronger to stabilize and support the joints and the muscles and the ligaments and nerves, it actually helps to reduce pain in the long run scheme too. It also helps improve brain health by a lot, so improving our balance, reducing the risk of diabetic peripheral neuropathy and any nerve damage that occurs too, just by performing a regular routine physical activity to help keep the body more physically active and improving our metabolic health. Now, some client wins, some more personal reasons, because I'm sure all of the understandings that, sure, blood sugars are great, heart health is great, reducing risk of falls are great, but maybe that's not as important for some people. Now, for some of my clients, some of the biggest reasons why they wanted to participate in physical activity and making a change in their life was being able to fit inside of the Disneyland or the other amusement park rides and being able to share the moment of riding a roller coaster with their kid or with their grandkid without having the fear that their blood sugars are going to go crazy or having the fear that they're not able to ride in the machine because the ride wouldn't be able to fit them. Now they're able to participate in physical activity, improving their muscle, reducing their waist size, and being able to fit inside of the machines so that they can enjoy the rides with their family members. Another thing too is having the strength of their legs and their body and being able to go up and down the stairs to enjoy watching a football game, a soccer game, or any stadium where maybe there is seating that's available, but it's hard to get to the seats if they didn't practice their physical activity. So by practicing their physical activity, they will improve their leg strength so that they're able actually to go up down the stairs to watch their games and without having to worry that their knees or their hips or their back was going to be sore the next day because they knew by practicing and training their physical activity, they were prepared for that event. Other things could be helping their kids or their grandkids move into college dorms or being able to move out of their apartment and moving into a new place and being confident in their ability to do so without having the fear that they need to contact someone else to help them out. And another thing too is being able to learn how they could pair their sweet treats with their physical activity and other foods in order to have their blood sugars be within ranges, and knowing that they can have the sugars that they want or the sweet treats that they crave without worrying about their blood sugars going out of control because they know how to control them by practicing these habits consistently and trusting the process. So Before we get started into other things, here is the American Diabetes recommendations for exercise types for people with type 2 diabetes. So aerobic activity, being able to spend 150 minutes a week for moderate to vigorous exercise. And we'll go into the heart rate zones later in this video, so stay tuned for it to learn how to personalize it for yourself. It should be spaced out over 3 to 7 days a week, but no more than 2 consecutive days of vigorous exercise in bouts, just to allow the body to recover from any form of muscle soreness. Because muscle soreness, it might be a side effect of doing a workout that someone is not as used to. That's just a way to help repair the muscles within the body. An example of this is, imagine someone is driving down the roads and they do it multiple times a week, multiple times a year. Eventually those roads start to get worn out and there are some holes or cracks that form inside of the foundation of the road, and traffic needs to come in to help repair and make it a lot stronger. So by the muscle soreness, that's very similar, where we're using our muscles and now some of it needs to help repair itself with the proper nutrients, such as using protein and being able to meet the protein goals. That is a way to help reinforce the road so that they're more stronger and more viable to drive across again, make it a lot easier to do the things that people want to do. And here is the other list of physical activities that's talked about here. We have resistance exercise by doing moderate to vigorous resistance training, doing about 2 to 3 times a week on non-consecutive days, practicing with at least 8 to 10 net exercises, doing about 1 to 3 sets of 10 to 15 reps, doing something like a squatting maneuver where someone is standing up. They could do a squat from a chair, so squatting slow and controlled on the way down to prevent injuries, and then standing all the way up. That's a good way to help improve the legs of the hips, strength, back, and knees. Any sort of bicep curls to help improve the strength of the elbows. Any overhead presses, so improving the strength of the shoulders. Any chest presses, any rows, pulling things towards us. Those are some simple activities that anyone could do, either with a grocery bag and putting objects in there so that they could do it at the comfort of their own home, or going to a gym and being able to use the exercise equipment that's there to partake in the resistance exercise training. Other things that's helpful too is flexibility and balance training. So dynamic stretching, moving in and out of the positions in a slow, controlled manner like yoga. And balance training, maybe doing some activities where they're balancing on both of their legs and having their eyes closed over a countertop. Those are some ways to help improve balance, especially with people with type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, and even type 1 diabetes. It's just a way to help with maximizing the muscles and protecting our health and improving the stuff that we want to do with our lives. And then now, the moment that people have been waiting for, how does blood sugars work? Like, why do they go up? Why do they go down? Are carbs really the enemy? Truth be told, carbs are not the enemy. Instead, everything starts off with any food that we decide to eat. It then transfers into the stomach, where the sugars, carbs, fats, and proteins are digested, and they move into the bloodstream, because the bloodstream is transporting those sugars to fuel the muscles and the brain and the other organs to be used off as energy. But in order to get into the muscles and the organs, insulin and or exercise needs to be utilized in order to help move those blood sugars from the blood into the muscles and the organs. When exercising and moving around, that helps to improve insulin sensitivity, so more of the sugars can actually move into the body a lot more faster. It's like getting a fast pass in Disneyland. By having that fast pass, they're able to skip the line a lot more effectively and enjoy the ride a lot more quicker. Exercise is that form of getting that fast pass to help the blood sugars get lowered down a lot more effectively. And it also, the exercise, it just instantly moves the blood sugars into the body, particularly in the muscles, because it's being used off as that energy. It's squeezing out the sugars to be used off as energy, causing the blood sugars to go down, because now the sugars have moved from the blood into the muscles and the organs. Ideally, the good blood sugar ranges to stay within ranges throughout the day is 70 to 180 milligrams per deciliter, or 3.9 to 10 millimoles per liter. Now, the thing about it is not all exercises are the same. So we're going to look at what the short-term effects are and the long-term effects are for doing physical activity and how they impact blood sugars. So we start off with walking or aerobic activities. This is something that's a light impact, nothing crazy. That can actually reduce the blood sugars in the short term, because adrenaline and noradrenaline and the other hormones aren't being released in the body as much, and it causes the blood sugars to go down because it's more insulin sensitive. And in the long term, it also lowers the blood sugars effectively in that way. Now, getting onto the heavy hitters, resistance exercise and high intensity interval training. So those are both ways that will cause the blood sugars to go up in the short term because the body is releasing more stress hormones like epinephrine, adrenaline, those excitatory hormones that causes their body to become slightly more insulin resistant, and it's telling the liver to dump out more blood sugars into the blood and leading up to the higher blood sugar spikes. However, in the long term of things, maybe about 30 minutes or an hour after the physical activity, or even doing resistance training and maybe even 10 or 15 minutes in, because it's variable for a person, that could actually cause the blood sugars to go down super quickly because it's still activating those muscles to soak up those blood sugars. It's just a matter of which one is being active more effectively at that moment of time. So once the adrenaline and the stress hormones are at its peak, it eventually starts to taper down, and those muscles, a lot of them tend to be a lot more activated throughout the workouts, causing the blood sugars to drop down really significantly. And even further into the long term, by doing resistance training and high intensity interval training, that helps to improve muscle growth. And the bigger and stronger that muscles are, that actually allows the muscles to soak up blood sugars more effectively in the long term. Now, I'm not saying that people, when they do resistance training exercise, are going to be bodybuilders all of a sudden. Bodybuilders have to put a lot of hard work and effort and training to even get up to that phase. By following the recommendations of the American Diabetes Association of getting resistance training about 2 to 3 times a week, people will get leaner, but they're not going to get bulkier because they're not doing enough to actually improve their muscle bulk in that way to look like a bodybuilder. Like, it takes a lot more training and work to get up to that point. And just by following and meeting the bare minimum recommendations, I guarantee that majority of people are not going to reach to that stage. Now that people understand how exercise impacts their blood sugars and what the long-term benefits can be, how does someone get started? So let's start off with the first step. First step is just logging the current activity that someone is doing. So you can take a look at what sedentary activities that someone is doing, whether that is sitting down at a desk for working, driving in a car, or sitting down and watching TV. Track down how many minutes a day that someone is spending doing that, and that gives people a better idea of what activities they are doing that's pretty sedentary and not physically active. And then the other thing is track what forms of physical activity that someone is doing. So maybe after they're eating a meal, they go on a walk for about 5 minutes, and that's about 5 minutes a day that they're spending with physical activity for that particular thing. Maybe it could be gardening, so putting down gardening, and maybe they spent 2 hours gardening, and write that down, and that's just a good way to help track where their physical activity measures are. Now, the recommendation is moderate to vigorous physical activity. So moderate physical activity, it's just getting within the 60 to 70% max heart rate zone. And a good way to track the physical activity is using either a Fitbit or a smartwatch, or even having the phone to track where their amount of steps are in a day, and taking the magical number of 220, minusing their age, then multiplying it by 0.6, which is 60%, or 0.7, which is 70%, that would be the moderate physical activity zone. So if I happen to be 50 years old, I would do 220 minus 50, and if you're using a calculator, make sure you put that in parentheses, because the multiplication will happen first before any subtraction, unless it's put into some parentheses, just like I've shown here. Multiply that by 6, and that'll equal the minimum heart rate I would need to try to be in order to start counting more minutes to reach towards the physical activity goal of getting 150 minutes per week for being in the moderate physical activity range. So by doing this, it's just a way to start tracking things to see where someone is currently at. And after they figured out what they're currently at, then it's finding the opportunities to be active. Let's say, for example, I'm watching TV, and that's one of the biggest sedentary activities that I do. Maybe I go on a walk during the commercial breaks, just walking around in the house. That's a good way to start getting more steps in, and in order to help get the blood sugars down a lot quickly, instead of just walking in a small leisurely place, maybe I pick up the pace as I'm walking around in the house to help improve the amount of blood sugars that's being used and lower it down a lot more effectively. Another sedentary activity that can be replaced with, or at least finding a way to increase the physical activity goals, is whenever I'm sitting at work, maybe I'm setting a timer for 30 minutes, and after that 30 minutes is up, I just do 10 squats. I could do it from a chair if I can't stand up by myself, if I have rails, or I can push off of my knees. Just try to stand up, and then as I'm sitting down, the slow and in control, that helps to use up the muscles a lot more effectively rather than letting gravity and momentum plop myself down. But just by practicing going up and going down 10 times, maybe that takes about a minute or a couple minutes. That's something to start adding towards a physical activity bank, and that improves our time and guidelines. And then another thing too is driving. So whenever I'm going driving and I'm on cruise control, maybe a good activity as I'm driving is just fidgeting. So moving my knees up and down, or start pushing my ankles up and down as I'm doing this. That is a way to start allowing the muscles to use up the blood sugars, even with small, simple movements, and breaking up that sedentary activity so that the body's more effective at using those blood sugars. All right. Now, if you're curious about what other diabetes videos there are, like nutrition or timing of exercises or other details, feel free to subscribe to the Diabetes Management Group channel, hit that notification bell for any updates for the newer videos, and we'll be on our way to help you get more resources in order to put type 2 diabetes and prediabetes remission. And remember, learning and watching videos is one thing, but putting it into the action, that's where the magic happens. Now, speaking of making the magic happen, other things to do to help with improving and engaging in physical activity and exercise is making the activities physically fun. So consistency matters. Maybe that means making friends in a walking group at the community center or at a living facility. Those are some things to help with that consistency, and meeting with your friends, talking with them, and walking with them. Or if it's on the phone, talking with someone on the phone while walking around, or just doing miscellaneous chores around in the house. That's a good way to help with improving the consistently being physically active. Another thing is make sure you tell people about it. So if you have any family members that want to know how you're doing, that you're chatting with them, talk to them and say, hey, I just went on a walk at my walking center, or I just went to a gym and I had a great time meeting with someone. Or if they're by themselves, letting them know that I went to the gym by myself, give me some kudos. The more that you could practice that positive habits in the reward system, it's going to help a lot in imagining yourself having amazing blood sugars within ranges, being able to have the strength that you need to do the activities that you want to do, whether that's going to a game, whether that's traveling, or whatever things that you can imagine. Sharing those goals and sharing how you're being consistent towards it helps significantly. Another thing too is some people, whenever they do something fun and rewarding, they put some of their money into a savings account to prepare for an upcoming trip, football game, or rewarding themselves with a dress or a shoe that's going towards that. Setting those goals helps significantly in reaching those goals, and seeing that number go up each time is phenomenal. Another thing that may satisfy people too is consistency. So maybe writing things down of, okay, my goal is to hit at least 5,000 steps a day, and or increase my step count by 2,000 steps a day. Those are some things that I could keep doing and crossing up my to-do list. So maybe putting 3 things of physical activity on there, and each time that I get them done, I cross them off each time. That may give an internal reward system, knowing that I'm awesome, I'm able to do the stuff that I tell myself that I'm able to do, or even a partial amount. Maybe a partial amount of, hey, I didn't hit my 2,000 steps a day, but I did get 500 steps extra compared to last time. That's still a huge reward. Give yourself compliments, write it down on the to-do list, and some movements and some physical activity is better than nothing at all. Speaking of which, some people may feel like they are procrastinating or hitting a wall that, oh, I need to be perfect in order to make my physical health a lot better. That is just going to keep blocking people from achieving the goals that they want to. Instead, think about, what can I do now, even if it's just one small thing, to help improve my health? Because for some people, they need to really remember their why. So remembering the why. For some people, it could be, hey, I want to avoid getting hospitalized again. I want to avoid getting an infection. I want to avoid getting an amputation that occurs. I want to avoid being blind. I want to avoid getting cancer. Those are some motivators that people can have to help prevent that whenever they're physically active and fit. And then other things too is maybe they want to go to their sports game, or traveling to a different country and climbing up different stairs, and being able to enjoy the festivities that comes along with that. Remembering that why of, hey, I'm working out so that I can enjoy being able to go up and down those stairs. Like I could feel how strong my knees are and my back is. I could see how everyone is getting excited for watching their teams. I could see my team getting out of the stadium. I could breathe in and smell how amazing the fresh air smells just by being at this area. I can feel how amazing this environment is and being able to reward myself with being physically active and training up to the results to have these rewards come to me. Like, these are different things that people can enjoy and remembering their why. Another thing too is being there for their grandkids and taking care of their grandkids. So for some people, it's being able to pick up their kids or grandkids and being able to feel strong enough and have good shoulders and a good back to enjoy it, or being able to go down on the floor to play with their kids whenever they're drawing things on the ground, and being able to enjoy those physical activities and being strong about it. The more consistency that's being placed in there, even if they don't want to do it, put that image into mind, and that can help significantly. The other thing too is maybe see other people's motivators as eating the foods that they want to eat. So if they want to eat the cakes, if they want to eat the pizza, or eating whichever foods that they want to, learning how they can incorporate that in and knowing, hey, if I eat this cake, I know that doing physical activity will help lower the blood sugars, and it'll also help use up the calories that I have from the cake. Those are some things and ways to help improve the blood sugar control, and being able to reward themselves with the other forms of food and being smart about it. Those are different ways that it can help someone. So thank you all so much for tuning in to learn how exercise and physical activity impacts the blood sugars and some strategies that you can utilize to make a positive difference in your life. If you feel like you benefited from this video or want to see other videos, diabetes related topics, please hit that subscribe button. Share this video with anyone you think it'd be helpful for. That'd be amazing. And feel free to put in the comments below what other terms of videos that you want to see, any questions that you have, any learning bits that you had from this. I'm happy to read them and engage with you all so that you can finally achieve the goal of putting type 2 diabetes and prediabetes into remission, just like I have, and just like what I've been doing with the multiple clients that I'm working with, who's able to enjoy their lives without having to worry about as much of being in the unknown of how their blood sugars are going to impact them. Instead, they're confident in knowing how their blood sugars are going to work, and they're confident in knowing what activities they can do to control their situation. Because everyone has control. It just starts with one small bit of action. All right, thank you all so much, and see you in the next video.